pressing the buttons, and hello everybody. So glad that you're here with us this fine evening, this fine Thursday evening, if you will.
Yeah.
Very glad
Thursday.
to see you hanging out. And we've got a whole bunch of things to talk about today as soon as we press all the buttons that we need to press, and that is happening as we speak. You are way too far over, Joanna. So why don't you scooch on over?
Better?
What? Do I have an odor, an offensive odor?
No, I think, because you weren't down here, and so I was like sitting to make sure that you could get past the pole and everything.
I understand. I understand.
Do you know what everybody at work calls Thursdays?
Friday Eve?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've actually never said that. So
No?
happy Friday Eve, everybody. Glad you're here with us. So we're going to, obviously, we're going to have the people from the KG Tropicals live stream rolling in here in a second. As I always say, if you haven't seen it, check it out. They've got all kinds of cool stuff going on there. And we're going to be talking about videos for this week. We're going to be talking about where we're going to be because we've got places that we're going to be here in the coming future.
Yeah.
And we have a topic tonight as well. We are going to be talking about 20-gallon stocking options. And I've got a list. It's not an exhaustive list, and I'm really looking forward to everybody's suggestions here about what you love for a 20-gallon. I'm sure you're going to have a few things, but the things that you suggest, I won't have visuals for because you didn't tell me anything before this live stream. So I'll
probably agree with most of your...
Yeah, I'll have some pictures to show you. But
Yeah.
the weirdest thing is going on right now with one of our hard drives where I have all my videos stored. It takes forever it took forever for the stuff to come up again.
Oh,
I think we're
no.
getting very close to capacity on that hard drive.
Yeah.
And then once it did, all the videos I was searching for, it would just freeze. And of course, I'm trying to do this 45 minutes before the live stream. So I'm like, we will go to option 2. I'll show you some really cool pictures. Yeah.
You could draw us some pictures. That would be fun too.
Yes, I will
Little
draw
sketch.
you some pictures. That's what I'm going to
Like
do.
a sketch time.
Sure, why not? Okay. So, what are we talking about? Well, first thing, videos that have come out this past week on Sunday. This past Sunday on Primetime Aquatics. What did I do? What did I do? Was it the glass cats? Was that the video? Yeah. So I talked about glass cats because we have them in the 125 right behind Joanna's head over there. And I think it's a fish that is very, 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 with a capital V and a capital Airy, underappreciated these days. They were so common when I was growing up. You would see them at every single pet store. It seemed like everybody had them in their aquariums. And you don't see them nearly as much. And they're just, I don't think people talk about them as much as they should be talked about. And so I did a species profile on the glass cat. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And maybe, just maybe, I will convince you of the same thing. And that same thing being that glass cats are awesome. They're super peaceful. They hang out together. They're just always wiggling. And it's just one of those visual interests. You got people coming over looking at your aquarium. They're like, what is that see-through fish in your tank? And they're really, really hardy.
I can see through that fish.
Why am I seeing a fish skeleton? That's my glass cats. So I heard a story about them one time too. Somebody who was not generally a fish keeper, they were breaking down like a 55-gallon aquarium.
No pun intended.
Yes.
Get it? Break the glass.
Oh, yeah. So they were taking down a 55-gallon aquarium, and they got about, I don't know, a third of the way, 2/3 of the way done. And then they just forgot about it. They just left it. I guess it was in their basement or something. And they just left it there for months. And they thought all the fish were caught. And they went back down there. And after a lot of the water had evaporated, now there's just a few inches of water. One time they went down there and they heard something. And they had forgotten about some glass cats that were in that aquarium. Because I guess it was kind of, they stirred up a bunch of stuff up. And of course, it's really hard to see glass cats because they're see-through, and you have a really dirty tank. Good luck. You are not finding them. It's like it's game over at that point. And they survived months, no filter, no heaters. I don't know what they were eating. There was probably organisms in there that were starting to grow if you just leave an aquarium for months. I have no idea. But yeah, so it's a really hardy fish. So that was Sunday. Let's see. What did you do? Did you have a video?
Can I?
Did you smack me?
Yeah.
Why am I going to have to get smacked already? Did I do something?
Keep you in line.
Okay. I'm sure I did something to deserve it. So Monday, Container Joy, one of your channels, the plant channel. What did we talk about?
Oh, I went to the cutest antique shop. Yes, I did. It was a very wintry day, and it was just really something fun to do.
Cool.
Looking for winter stuff for $20. I had $20.
A whole $20, huh?
Yeah, wanted to know what I could get.
Nice.
You wouldn't believe what you can get for $20 at an antique shop. You just wouldn't believe it.
You can get all kinds of cool stuff. So that was Monday, and then on Wednesday, yesterday, you
oh, it was a video.
small scape?
Oh my gosh, I was so excited about it. Stem plants 101. For those of you who may be afraid of stem plants or just not sure about them, they're not that scary. And
So-
you might be using them and you don't even know it.
So best practices for growing, maintaining, keeping stem plants.
Kinda. It's like 101. It's your introduction.
Am I the only one? And you know my feelings. I tend to get stressed out about stem plants because I don't
Or I
think they plant particularly well.
It-
So water wisteria, water sprite, that's a stem plant. I just kind of let it float, and then it kind of grows from the top down, and then it sends out these little tiny skinny roots that are just to
Yeah.
grab things.
Mhm.
But I've never been able to plant those things without actually just having them rot at the bottom and then start to float again anyway. So you have better luck planting stem plants than I do, I suppose.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yes. Now I know it does like a lot of fertilizer and it does like higher light. It'll do better, of course, if you have CO2. You don't have to. But I think a lot of these times, because remember, I had Bacopa and something else when I used aqua soil. And I was very happy from the get-go.
From the get-go. Speaking of plants and planted tanks, we have a few cool videos coming up here pretty soon. I have boxes upstairs that I need to reveal to everybody that I'm really
Yeah.
excited about.
I
So
am
that will
too.
be coming a little bit later on Primetime Aquatics. Prime Timers probably do video tomorrow. Didn't get a chance today. So for those of you who care, it was my first week back to school after a long break. In service time meetings. Next week we have students. So I've been a little trying to get back onto a schedule. Let's see what else. This Saturday I've got a really cool guide for you. I think it's something that I've been wanting to do for years, and I finally got around to doing it, so I'm happy about that. Okay, where we're going to be real fast, then we're going to get into our subject. Where we're going to be. First of all, thank you to everybody who came to the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association swap last Sunday. Busiest GCCA swap we've seen this swap season, and we brought a lot of stuff and we left with no stuff.
Yeah.
So
that was crazy.
extremely busy.
Yeah.
The next place we're going to be is not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday on the 1st of February, where we will be at the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap. Website should be updated sometime around Tuesday of next week. We are really wiped out of fish after a Quad Cities and a GCCA where they were both extremely busy. So if you see something on the website, primetimeaquatics.com, and you think you want it because you're going to be going to that Greenwater swap, I would not wait because it's going to be small quantities, unfortunately. We've got a whole mess load of fish in there that are in quarantine, but they're not ready for Greenwater because we just got them a week ago. So something to consider. Okay. Where else are we going to be after that? The 23rd, we've got Quad and GCCA, Quad City in Davenport, GCCA in Northbrook, both on the 23rd. And then we are getting really close to the Minnesota Aquarium Society Expo.
Really?
That's happening on March 23rd, 22nd, 21st. It's that Saturday. It's the early 20s Saturday. We will be there. It's going to be awesome. All right.
Fun.
So that is all of the things I wanted to talk about there. Now today, like I said, we have what's going to be a really cool subject, and I can't wait to talk about it. It's 20-gallon stocking options. I think I've got some pretty cool, unique things, unique options. So it's not going to just be your run-of-the-mill. Not there's anything wrong with this, but like, let's put some guppies in there. Let's put a betta in there. Let's, I tried to pick some things. There are going to be a few things you've probably heard of before, but I tried to pick some things that maybe a lot of us haven't kept before. So Desert Fish, glad you're here. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a prime timer the last 50 months. That's pretty cool.
It
Just
is.
over 4 years.
Yeah.
Are you coming out to LA Aquashella? I don't know. Like I said last week, the Aquashella dates have been posted, but everything is kind of changed. So every contact I had, for the most part, at Aquashella is no longer part of Aquashella. They've still got a great group there, but I don't know what's going on with the Aquashellas for Dallas, for LA. and for New Jersey. Those are the 3 locations this year. So no Daytona Beach, no Florida, no Chicago. The Dallas Aquashella is in like the 3rd week of May, 23rd-ish of May. Don't quote me on these dates. I don't remember them exactly. And then I really don't remember. Both of the other 2 are happening in the fall. New Jersey and LA. LA I know is in October, and I don't remember when the New Jersey one is in Secaucus. So, but I don't know. Is it? No, it's not in May. That's Dallas. The other 2 are definitely in the fall. I think New Jersey is in, I think it might be in November. But anybody knows, feel free to post the dates.
LA
I'm sure
was
that will
the
be
last one. It's not November.
LA is definitely in October. So maybe New Jersey's in September. I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
I think, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Nick says September. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. But yeah, if you've got dates, you want to put them in there, feel free to go ahead and do it. But I don't know yet. I hope we will try to make some schedule stuff work, because there's like 2 or 3 other things I want to go to next year as well. So
this year.
Doxy says, well, yeah, this year. Well, I always think next year being as the things
it's like
start
the
to happen.
fish season almost,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
I get you. I
know.
get you. Yeah.
Yep. So first week in New Jersey, says Doxy. Awesome. And then Scallywag says Jersey is the 6th and the 7th of September.
All right.
Good to know. Thank you very much. All right. Today, 20 gallons. Here's what I thought would be cool. I want to build a 20-gallon aquarium, because people always ask us, what we think about stocking options for certain aquariums. And by the way, before I forget, in the description of this live stream, I've got species profiles for you for some of the fish that we're showing off today. And I have a completely separate 20-gallon stocking options video where we really go over it in detail. And that video is going to have probably somewhat different fish in that video that we're going to talk about here today. So lots of options if you've got a 20-gallon. So the first thing, let's start out talking about our cleanup crew, kind of like our scavenger type fish. When we're thinking about cleanup crews, scavenger type fish, what are we thinking about?
Cory's.
You like Cory cats?
Yeah,
all right.
That's my go-to.
I've picked out 3 that I really, really love.
Okay.
Like, of these 3, I would say all 3 of them are my top 5 all time. We'll see. So first,
I know my favorite, but go ahead.
I don't want to do this in the order that I have it on the screen. So I'm going to do it in an order where I'm going to go 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
I think. Okay.
Okay.
So
I know what you would pick as number 1. I know you would.
Well, but I have a different one that is recently entered.
Really?
My top 5, probably my top 3. That's not on this list, because I was trying, like I said, I was trying to rush through this. But when it comes to Cory cats in a 20, one of the ones I really love, and that's the Venezuela Cory. So this is the Venezuela Cory cat. Now this is the oranger variety. And for those of you who visit our swaps, you'll know, and we've got in a 40 right now in quarantine, like 50 of them. And they are awesome. They're awesome fish. They absolutely get this orange color. And so sometimes you'll see pictures on the internet and you're like, wow, you know what? The pictures I saw on the internet really don't reflect reality of the fish I've got sitting in front of you. As long as you get a high quality Venezuela, and like I said, usually there's like the Venezuelas and they've got ones that are designated oranger varieties, and those oranger varieties, boom. I mean, the Venezuelas look like this. What would you like to say about them? Because actually, when we have our swaps, Joanna is always the Cory cat catcher. So I just stick her with all the Cory cats, because there's something that we do special when we're catching Cory cats. A lot of them will temporarily release a toxin when they are stressed. And so she's got to go through, catch them, let them settle in water, and then change out the water, get new fresh water, put them in the bag before we put them in a bag. So that keeps down the potential issues. All right.
Yep.
So Venezuelans, personality-wise, I think you know them much better than I do, in fact, just by observing them. What do we know?
They're fast. They've got a lot of skills, especially in a tank that's hard to reach in the first place. And then, of course, it has a 3D background, which, of course, leaves gaps on either side. You know.
Why are you slouching? You are like way...
Am I?
Yeah, because I had to put these pictures in there, and like the whole picture's covering your face, and then look at the top of my head, look at the top of yours.
Oh, because I'm scrunched down in my chair.
Okay, well, don't do that anymore. Go like this. Sit very proper. If you're going to talk about Cory cats, you're going to talk about it in a proper way.
Oh, okay. Well, I already said my piece.
You said your piece.
So what did I say about them?
You said that they're very fast.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. And I agree. But they're super, super entertaining. I absolutely love the Venezuela Cory. I love the colors. So in a 20-gallon, Cory cats, all the Cory cats we're going to talk about today, do 4 to 6, right? I mean, especially if it's a 20 long, but even a standard 20, I don't think there's any hesitation. I would have no hesitation doing 4 to 6 Cory cats. Now, I will say, I would really like to have them on sand for a couple reasons. One, I just think that it's more comfortable. They are going to be able to find their food a little bit easier. I'm not as worried or concerned about the barbels being all messed up because of the gravel. I actually, especially if it's more a smoother gravel, I'm not all that concerned about it. I've kept them on gravel, as have probably hundreds of thousands of people over the course of history, and it's rare that I see any issues. However, I absolutely agree that they're better on sand. They like to kind of go through the sand a little bit, looking for food. It's a more interesting environment for them, and it is overall a safer environment. For these guys, substrate color can matter. So when I keep them on a black substrate, and right now they are on a black substrate, you get a lot more of that dark orange. If you keep them on a lighter substrate, some of that greenish that you're seeing, and they do get some green, that tends to go away a little bit, and the orange tends to lighten up, but they look good on both types of substrates. But I absolutely think 4 to 6 in a 20-gallon would be pretty awesome. Super easy to feed. I mean, most of you know we feed all of our fish Northfin foods, but like the Bug Pro, the flakes sink pretty fast, so they will eat that. The cichlid, the community pellets, all of it really, really good stuff. So Venezuelas are awesome.
This is a good question, just real quick here. Nick wants to know, can Cory cats go with geos?
Absolutely. Yep. I've done it. The geos more or less just ignore the Cory cats. Now, what I wouldn't do is get really, 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 really juvenile Cory cats with full-grown geos. You might wind up with a geo that gets a Cory cat stuck in its mouth. But as long as the geos are, and the Cory cats are big enough where the geos aren't going to eat them. And by the way, if you've got small geos and small Corys, the Cory cats are going to grow much, much faster than the geos, so it's perfectly acceptable. Okay, so that's my number 3. And again, for you swap people, we'll have as long as they make it through quarantine, as always, we're going to have a bunch of these at the swaps coming up. All right, next one. Ready?
Yeah.
Of these, I'm having a hard time picking my second favorite.
And you have 3 listed?
I have 3 listed, but there's a 4th one that
you haven't listed. I think
don't say.
I know what you're going to pick in number 2. I know what you're going to pick.
I don't think you do, but
it would
I'm going
be
to show
my
it off
number
anyway.
1.
So these are the gold laser Cory cats.
Okay.
Gold lasers, for those of you again who go to the swaps, we just had them. We've got a few left. These are great Cory cats, but unlike the Venezuelas, they're a little bit more difficult to find, and usually when you find them, they're going to be expensive. So just keep that in mind. And again, just because, and I don't know, maybe you guys can chime in if you see the gold laser Cory cats. Like, which Cory cats do you typically see the most around your area? I mean, for us, it's a lot of the standard ones, and they're great, but the panda Corys, salt and pepper, pygmy Corys are really, really common. Of course,
Julie's.
the Julie Cory cat is
Julie's.
really, really common. I think I said salt and pepper. And then, of course, like just the standard albino, standard greens, they're like ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So those aren't going to be super expensive. But unfortunately, the Cory cats I'm talking about here, they tend to go for a little bit more money. But again, I want to pick stuff that's just really going to draw the eye. We have gold lasers right behind us here in this 50-gallon lowboy, which they're right there, but the picture's in the way. And love, love, love these fish. This is one, to me, I like to keep these on a dark background. I love to keep dark background and dark substrate especially. So I like to go darker. These fish, like the Venezuelas, if you were to keep them on, let's say, like a red flint sand or like a more natural type of sand, they're going to blend a little bit more. So they're not going to be as striking. But you keep these guys in particular on a dark substrate, and you tend to get a lot of really, really nice color out of them. What do you want to say about the gold lasers in terms of their personality?
I don't remember the last time I had to catch them, to tell you the truth.
A week ago, you did. And the week before that?
Wait,
the 20s under the stairs?
Oh, I remember. That's right. Sorry. I confused them with the other kind
You
that we
literally,
had in there. I know.
I literally just
and
caught
I remember, too.
probably 150 of them over the last 2 weeks.
And you know,
This is what I deal with, everybody.
this is what I deal with. Imagine being me. Imagine being me. Garage Gills, he is, just so you know, time number 3. He is going to get a smack at some point. And I even remember pulling him out before, you know, I'd wait for the bagger. We call him the bagger because he actually puts them in the bag. And I was waiting in the clear cup. And like right under this, there's a light right here. And I would look at them. I'd be like, oh, they're so pretty. Yeah. Anyways, though I find easier to catch, but they still also have, it's funny, Cory's, generally speaking, have mad skills. They learn. They learn. I usually, you know, kind of pick my zone where I think I'm going to get them. And they will learn very quickly. Like, nope, she's going to come this way with the net. We'll go up. We'll go around. Oh, they are so funny.
And I find them to be more relaxed than comparatively with the Venezuela Cory.
Oh, yeah.
Or the next one we're going to talk about for sure.
Anybody is.
Because there are some Cory cats that will actually spend more time swimming around. They're more active, even sometimes partially open water. Like, of course, the pygmy Cory is mostly open water. But the Venezuela, for us, tends to show a lot of activity, loves to be in a group. These guys, I say these guys, the gold laser Corys, a little bit more shy, at least from what we've experienced, right? And I would say that they're not quite as active. And again, maybe some of you have experienced something different, but the colors that you're seeing in this picture, I think they're a little bright, and it could be just because it's on a lighter substrate, or maybe they brightened up the picture a little bit. But for most of the time for us, and again, maybe it's because we keep them darker on a darker substrate, the gold, or sometimes with the orange lasers, that more orangish little color, I find them to be so similar, they're almost indistinguishable. But that tends to be a little bit more vibrant, and their bodies tend to be a little bit darker. So really, 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 really cool fish. Very expensive fish relative to the other ones we're going to talk about. Puka Man, I see you. What's up? For those of you, Puka Man and I we have been friends since we were kids. So he doesn't even know about fish. He just comes here to hang out and just enjoys being part of our community. And so everybody, Puka Man, I could tell you the stories about why he's got that name, but I won't. So, okay, next one. This one is my personal number-ish one, but I'm struggling because there's a fourth one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious which one you haven't mentioned that.
All right, so everybody wants to see?
I'm surprised because it's probably going to be my number 1.
This bad boy here.
It's my number 1.
This is the Adelphi Cory. We have these at the swaps all the time. We have, probably 150 in the fish room right now in quarantine. Hopefully that's going to be ready for the swaps later in February. They are absolutely stunning. I did a species profile, and I didn't do a species profile on the other two, but there is a species profile linked in the description of this video because you have them in your 22 long.
I do.
I forgot when I did that species profile. I have a group in the 125 nano tank back here that are just gorgeous because they're a little bit older than the ones that you have, and they're showing even more color. This is a Cory cat where this picture is not great because we have the Adelphi in our fish room on red flint sand, which is a brown sand, which we absolutely love, and that orange is on fire. I mean, it is gorgeous, and that body is actually very light in color, so it's a striking difference, and the orange is a lot more pronounced than what you're seeing in this picture. This is once again a fish that is going to be on the more expensive side for Cory cats because they're not as common. But out of all of them, I mean, I have a hard time deciding. These are three Cory cats that I find to be very, very hardy. Like when we get them in, it is extremely unusual that we lose, like, oh my gosh, they're not adjusting to our Chicago hard water, even though most of the time they would prefer a neutral pH and a little bit softer water, or even go slightly acidic. We don't do that. We have them at a pH of 8 and a GH and KH of 10, and there's like, boom, okay, we're good. Usually within 24 hours, you're like, we'll start eating too. We're pretty hungry, and they go crazy. By the way, you want to see something really fun? If you have a big group of Cory cats, like 6 or more, put a kelp wafer in, like those Northland kelp wafers, and watch them just go in a circle and eat those things.
They're like little tornadoes.
So personality-wise, what would you say about these guys in all of your Adelphi Cory cat catching abilities? Nothing? Thank you for sharing.
Well, I don't know if it's because I'm biased or not, but I find them to be kind of even keel. Like, not super crazy, but not really pokey and, like sleepy or anything. So they have a very mellow personality. They're fun-loving and not terribly horrible to catch.
Hold on, I got to share this comment because I was absolutely just shocked by this comment. It's a shocking comment. Are you ready? Are you ready for the shocking comment?
What's the shocking comment?
Adolfo at my local fish store are $55 a piece. No, they should absolutely not be anywhere close to that. So I mean, it's public knowledge. I have a website,
rude.
and you'll see them pop up. Not next Tuesday because we're out, but for the swaps, $6 or $7. It just depends on where I get them from and how much they are to get.
5 each?
Yeah,
What?
I think the most I've ever sold them for is maybe like 8. And again, I don't. If I can get them for less, then I sell them for less. If I have to pay a little bit more because it's coming from a different farm or whatever, I pay a little bit more. And but I don't. That's insane. That is way too much money for those fish. It's not even close. That's probably even pet store. And I get it. It's a pet store. They've got overhead, so I know that fish are going to be more expensive at a pet store. But $55, holy cow, that is quite incredibly shocking. But
Fish
anyway,
Loft says they're 30 at his.
that's insane. That is literally insane.
Awful.
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, these are great fish. Also really cool is they can go a little bit cooler, right? I mean, in terms of temperatures, so I don't have a problem keeping them in 73, 74, 75. In fact, I think they do best for us when they come in and I quarantine them in the tanks closer to the floor, just so that they're not kicking at 77, although they do just fine at 77, 78, because that's what your tank is, and that's what this tank is back there. But so they've got a wide range of water parameters, wide range of temperature, eat awesome, super hardy fish. So if you're looking for Cory cats, those are 3 that I would suggest because they're amazing. I do want to bring up a picture of my other one, because why am I going to explain this and then not show people why I feel like this is, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this thing right here. Also, hold on, give me a second here. Thank you. So let me just do this thing. I'm just going to throw this right over this picture. It's going to look weird. Sorry. This is my next one that this is now in my top. It's like challenging these other ones. This is the Pantana lenses Cory. This is a male. He's fired up. They don't always look like this. We have them in the fish room. Now these guys, if you told me at a pet store, are going for 30 or $55 a fish, I totally get that. These are very expensive. They were expensive for us to bring in because I was selling them at like $14 or $15 each at a swap. And again, I'm not looking to get rich off of this stuff. I'm looking to get fish into people's hands, healthy fish into people's hands. My margins are pretty slim. So this fish, Pantana lensis, is an amazing, amazing looking fish. They don't always look like that, but when they do, it's crazy. And they get a very, very bright fluorescent green color. So if you can find them, same size, they're all basically the same size, couple inches, a little taller bodied, same water parameters. These guys have been insanely healthy, but what's really crazy about these, so the Adolphi of the 3 that I've mentioned, they tend to be the most active out of the 3, and they will actually sometimes just swim around. These guys are more active than they are. I would say of all the Cory cat, we're up to now probably 20 or 25 different Cory cats that we've had in the fish room. And wouldn't you say that these guys are because you caught them, they like to swim. They like to open water swim more than most Cory cats that we've had.
They're swimmers.
And we're starting to get a big, big, big variety. So yeah, very awesome fish. Okay, so let me get that off the screen. Okay, so that's that. Let me fix the screen here. I do want to say thank you to Beto Great Lakes for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Minimal substrate, 70 to 74 degrees. Cory's do well. It depends on the Cory cat for the temperature, but the Adolphi would probably do okay. Venezuela's, I don't know if I'd push the gold lasers that cool. Pantanallensis, maybe. I try to keep them close to that mid-70s. Then you're fine. Minimal substrate, as long as it's not sharp. But they do enjoy some sand. I think it's a really nice ecosystem for them. Okay, so now that we've got that, can we talk a little bit about a couple other scavenger fish? I'm especially interested in fish that are going to be like algae scavengers.
Before you leave the Cory world, how many in a 20? Did you already address that?
Yeah, so 4 to 6 of any of the ones that I've talked about here. In fact, pretty much any. There's a few that get really big, but
Would you say are the largest Corys?
Some of the Bronchus like genus can get pretty large, where they're like pushing 3 inches and they're getting real tall bodied. But of pretty much almost all the Cory cats that you see at pet stores, especially the more common ones, you're going to be fine.
And then pygmies, you could, or Habrosus, you could have more.
Habrosus, yeah, but again, that's not my top. That's my top. But yeah, Habrosus easily 8 to 10.
I know it's not your top.
Pygmies, a dozen, no problem. Beginner fish breeding, thank you very much for the super chat. Didn't see a question, but if you throw one down a little bit later on, I promise Joanna will find it. But now I just saw another one pop up. Thank you once again. Really appreciate it. What is the best fish to breed that don't eat cherry shrimp? Small rasboras, dwarf, mira, chili rasboras, the galaxies, the dwarf emerald rasboras. Those would all be really good options. And I've bred them with a fish that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Well, similar fish, but bristlenose plecos. I've always had that combination. Sometimes adult bristlenose will actually hunt down some of the smaller shrimp, but I've actually done that combination a couple times. Okay, this next one, because we got to take care of the glass, some decorations, right? Don't you think? So I'm going to go with the clown pleco.
Love it.
You can do a bristlenose. We have
them.
bristlenose in almost every single 20-gallon we have, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. The clown pleco, this is a really small specimen of the clown pleco. They actually do look considerably nicer as they get a little bit larger. The color variations, those bright brown, lighter brown stripes, they tend to look a lot nicer as well. So it's nice because the clown pleco stays small. I know that's what you've always appreciated about them, right? However, there's a downside to them.
Yes.
What say you?
Well, you're not going to get to see them all the time.
Yeah.
They're shy.
But I also find it depends. Like in your planted 20 in the fish room, that clown pleco is out at the front of the glass around feeding time all the time.
Well, yes, and the emerald dwarfs are very active in that tank. They're just always out. And they tend to be.
The dwarf emerald rasbora. Yes, that's true. It's a really good ecosystem. But yeah, that one is out all the time. I've had that happen before. But a lot of times for this fish, it's going to be one of those. And they're not expensive. I mean, you should, in theory, in my brain, be able to pick these up for anywhere between $8 to $12 a piece. But they do hide. All right, so just keep that in mind. They are a fish where you'll see them periodically, especially if there's no bruisers in the tank, no one's being bullied. They will come out around feeding time sometimes, but so you don't always find it. But this next one that I want to talk about, I absolutely love this fish.
Okay.
This fish right now, we have 60 in quarantine right now.
Yeah. Oh.
Ready to go next month. And I bring these in a lot because they're amazing. And I will be willing to bet that many of you have not kept this fish, and a lot of you probably have never heard of it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You know what I'm going to say,
I
right?
bet you I have a guess.
Yes, they're
all right,
so
so
cute.
this is the letter L, 11A, whiptail. They call them whiptail catfish. It is a pleco to me. It is the L11A whiptail pleco. I absolutely adore this fish because here's what tends to happen. There's a few different types of L numbers in the whiptail pleco / catfish. And what's cool is, for those of you who have Amazonas, the last issue, the issue before, they had an entire feature about the L number whiptail plecos. And I love this fish. And I've been carrying them for a while, and Flip Aquatics has them. I noticed on their website they've got them. Now, this is a fish. It is a little bit more expensive, so I think we're usually somewhere in the $7, $8 to $10 range. And I know it is very common in a pet store. These things can go for 20 to 30 bucks a piece. Super peaceful. You can get a number of them. They get to about probably 4 inches, but they're very skinny, very inactive. I would have no problem putting 3 or 4 of these in a 20-gallon. And I don't find them to be particularly shy. Like when it comes time to eat, they're out.
Oh,
like
yeah.
We have 2 or 3 in your tank over there, and I think I'm going to keep back 5 or 6 for the Nano 125, just because I don't know why I don't have more of them. So
I need one for that little scape.
and you can have one for your little scape, whatever your little scape is coming up.
The secret.
These fish, so when they're small, sometimes they look a little bit more brown in color. And as they grow, they get a lot more. In this picture, again, I don't think it does these fish justice. I really think that this is a fish that will look even more red than that picture is showing.
Yeah, I agree.
And it doesn't matter if it's light or dark substrate and background. They just are awesome fish, very peaceful, super entertaining to watch, and they're just out and about. And it's another one I find extraordinarily hardy. Right, wide range of water parameters. It's very rare that, and keep in mind when we're talking about we bring these fish in, it's 60, 80, 100. Sometimes with some of the smaller fish that we're going to talk about, 300, 500, 600 at a time. And when I'm saying, man, we bring in all of this and we don't really lose fish. When I say that, I mean 1 here, 2 there, but it's not like, oh my gosh, these are just an absolute disaster. So, DeWitt, yeah. I can tell by your faces that you don't do bad things. 100% true. Yeah, that is absolutely 100% true. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. But if you can find this fish, please don't pass it up. Do not pass up this fish. Keep them at least once. I promise you, you're going to be like, wow, this is interesting. They're not super common. So if your pet store does have them, again, this is one where I could see it being more expensive. I can't see the Adolphi going for 55 bucks. I don't see like the Venezuela as being a $25 fish.
No.
I understand why the gold lasers are more.
Yeah.
I understand why these would be more. But, or like the Pantana lenses, Cory, that we were talking about earlier. Holy cow, that one. Yeah, you're going to spend 50, 60, 70 bucks a piece on those. Okay. So, yes, you can do bristlenose plecos as well, but we all know, I think we all kind of know that. All right. Is there anything that you want to add before we move away from Cory Cat Pleco land? Because I want to get into some of the schooling fish. Are you all ready? Are you ready to start filling up the swimming area of your tank with something going on in the middle top area? Because I think we should go there.
Do it.
Now, I don't like the order in which I put these. And so I'm going to kind of do a little bit of reverse order. And I picked 4 fish that I don't think you're going to see on a ton of lists. And heavy W, yeah, Odos, great option for a 20. But I just wanted to pick a few that were a little bit less common. But the Odos, and they've got the zebra Odo, which is a little bit more money. But
yes.
For us, the only problem with Odos for us, and I wanted to pick stuff that I know are really hardy. Like people are going to get them, and they're not just going to be like, wow, yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I can't keep these things alive. For us, I have a horrible time keeping Odos. Like, we just can't do it. And I think it's because
So
our
sad.
water is on the harder side and our pH is too high for them, and they tend to be sensitive. They're sensitive when they ship. And once you get them established, like there have been times where I think we've had a couple Odos, once they make it through that first 4 weeks, then they can live for a few years easily. But, oh man, we have such a hard time with the Odos. Okay. Now, are we ready?
Yeah.
First one I'm going to do, and you have them, and I have them. We all should have them. This is an underrated fish. It really is.
Oh,
Emerald eye rasbora.
that's what I figured. Yeah.
Yep. We have a group, and I'm going to be doing a species profile on this fish very, very soon. It's in the back 125 here. Why? And you've got some in your 22 long.
I do.
Tell me about this. Why do we like these fish? Because they don't look like much in this picture.
No, they really don't. But you can see that if you see that very, very subtle kind of like aqua shimmer they have along the body. They're very active. Mine swim all around the tank, so they pull out really the personality of the other fish around them. And I personally picked them because they stay pretty close together, and they kind of offset the other more like show-stopping fish that I have.
Yep.
Green neons.
And so, a couple things. Again, this picture, I'm not trying to get pictures in here that are going to be like, well, there's a couple in here that are probably showing a little bit more color than I think are realistic. However, this is not one of those. This is a picture where I really feel like it's not showing what this fish is capable of in terms of the blue eyes. And so the emerald eye rasbora gets its name because they have gorgeous blue eyes. And for those of you who really, really like the black water tanks, highly recommend this fish because between that iridescent blue in the body and those bright blue eyes, and the fact that of the true schooling fish, I don't know if there's a fish out there that schools tighter than this fish. I mean, it's up there. It's top 5 all day. Yes, it doesn't have some of the super vibrant colors across the body that some of the other fish do, but trust me, you get a group of these, that blue in the body in a group and in the eyes really starts to show. This is another one, ridiculously hardy. I mean, it's really rare that we have problems with these fish, and they live a decently long time. You'll get a few years out of them for a tiny little rasbora. That's pretty good. Tiny meaning 1.25 inches. Right, so a lot of times you see them really small, but they can be a nice sized fish and really tight schooling. Again, you got a 20 gallon for when I said, hey, you know what, your Cory cats keep 4 to 6. We're in the schooling fish land now. I'm just looking for these, easily 8 to 10, right, with your Cory cats. I mean, because they don't get super big, and they will provide a lot of activity in the middle of the tank. All right. Next one.
Yes.
This one is oddly, and by the way, these emerald eyes should be a very inexpensive fish. This is one retail $3, $4, $5. I mean, they're usually not expensive, right? So it's really easy to get a group of these and not break the bank. Now this next one, admittedly, this picture I think is showing the very best of this fish. Okay, we have them. We don't have any right now. We have them in the fish room, but we don't have any like in quarantine, but I almost did. Probably next time for later in the swap season. And that is the rainbow shiner. This is right now, this picture, it was just, I'm like, all right, I got to show one where the picture is just like, bam, in your face. This is a fully fired up male that probably has some really nice lights. I don't think necessarily the saturation is way off the charts here. Did you see our rainbow shiners? We have them in this back 50-gallon lowboy. And did you see the male yesterday?
No.
He wasn't like that, but he wasn't that far. He wasn't that far off.
Really?
The interesting thing about rainbow shiners is they're actually endemic to the United States. And yet it's, I don't know, we import them. That's the dumbest thing ever. So they breed them overseas. We import them because we buy big numbers, but you can find them in creeks in the United States.
That'd be fun.
I know, it's just kind of silly how
like
that works.
All these crazy fish are just really out there.
The other nice thing about the rainbow shiner is they are active. They do tend to spend a decent amount of time together. I wouldn't say they're super tight schooling, but they can be active. I did a species profile on this fish, and for some reason I didn't link it. So that was dumb of me.
Bait stores have them?
Yeah, well, it depends on the area and depends on the shiner. Yeah,
no kidding.
There are different shiners. Like I remember Jonathan Butkus, he had a red variety. And then there's these guys, and then we typically have ones that show a lot more blue. So it depends on where they're finding these things, what streams and rivers they're finding them in the southern part of the United States. But the males look like this. The females are usually much more muted. And you're absolutely right, Beto. These tend to be fish that would thrive in cooler water tanks. So be a little bit aware of that. However, they don't require them because we keep all of our rainbow shiners in the same temperatures that we keep all of our other fish, and they tend to do just as well. And so we're keeping them 77. That tank right there is probably 77, 78 degrees, and we've had them in there for quite some time. So they are very temperature tolerant. They're hard water tolerant. They are this is crazy. I have probably brought in, at this point in the last few years, trying to realistically think of how many rainbow shiners we've brought in. 600 to 800. And I think I remember losing one.
Wow.
And all
Tough
those shipments,
cookies.
and all those, these fish are hardy. Size-wise, a couple inches max, and pretty active fish. Be a little careful. So sometimes the males will be a little bit tough with one another. So it can be a little bit tough there. But if you've got a decent sized group, you've got some plants, rocks, wood, they usually do okay. Fee says, I just Googled, said they only live a year or so. Is that correct? They're not super long lived fish, but a year or so I've gotten more than that. I can get a couple years out of them easily. So, but yeah, they do have a relatively short lifespan, but they are gorgeous fish. And what strikes me as odd is when you see them in a pet store, they are somewhat expensive if they are not finding a local source. So, all right, this next one is going to be a little harder to find, but if you do, I promise you, it is worth it. Well worth it. And that is the red cherry tetra. There is a species. This is another picture I don't think even really reflects. I wish I could have had time to actually put my videos in here for a lot of these fish, because this is another picture where I don't think this accurately reflects these fish. Do you?
No. They look kind of, they look like a giant ember tetra there.
Yeah, no, these fish,
Where
where you're seeing the darker colors, not usually the way they look, at least at our fish room, they are orange throughout their entire body. And the fins tend to get like a really deep, really pretty orange. This is, again, the red cherry tetra, otherwise known as the Emzul tetra. I did a species profile on it. It's linked in the description. And then you can see in our 20 long what these fish really look like. They are insane. Now, a couple things. Again, pretty hardy fish, expensive. Really expensive. Like sticker shock type. Holy cow, this is a tetra. Why are you trying to charge me 30 or 40 bucks a piece for these things? And it's because I think they're insane. What else do you want to say about them?
They're stunning. There you go. There's really no more to say about them.
Okay.
I mean, and what's the max size that they get? Because
they're not big. Inch and
pretty small,
quarter-ish, inch and a half. But they're a tetra, so they're going to be a little bit taller bodied in a 20 gallon. So where I said with the emerald eye that we could easily go, I don't remember what I said, probably 8, 10 at least. With the rainbow shiners, you're probably looking at 6 to 8. Now, I'm not necessarily saying put all these schooling fish together. I would say with the schooling fish we're talking about here, I don't know if I'd go over 15 in total, right? So you can combine them however you want. So with the red cherries in a 20 gallon, I think we did in the 20 long, we might have had 10, somewhere around there, 10 or 12, right? There was a decent number, and they're another one that actually spends a lot of time together. So where they're not going to school like the emerald eye rasbora, they still form a pretty tight group, and they're very peaceful fish. They're not fin nippy. Sometimes you get fish that are of this genus, and they can be a little bit tough on fish. I have not found that to be the case with these. Fishloft says, I got these cherry tetras because of your video. They were 30 bucks each. Yeah, but that retail, that's reasonable. When I bring them in, it's still, in fact, we're going to have these in. As long as everything goes correct with the shipment for this week, I should be getting them in. They will not be anywhere close to 30 bucks, but they're going to be expensive. I think the last time I had them in, they were in the teens, because it's just they're an expensive fish.
I think that there's a perfect scape for these. If you just had these like that's it. You're not mixing, having some of this and this and that. A heavily planted green plant tank. It would be like stunning. Yes, tons of different shades of green plants.
Yeah. Yep.
Stunning.
Abby says, Richmond, Virginia, they're 15 bucks a piece. That's a good price. So if you've got a pet store that's selling them at 15, that's a very, very fair price. Usually retail, they're more. So that's really cool. Matthew, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Good evening, guys. Wondering if pumpkin seed, sunfish, bream, where I'm from, would be okay in a 29 gallon. I don't think so. Only because when I have kept pumpkin seeds, when I've kept bluegill, they behave like peacocks, like African cichlids. They get pretty rough on one another, and they can be really territorial with other fish. I wouldn't try it in that size tank. Maybe a 55 gallon, but I wouldn't go any less than a 4-foot tank. That's just because when I've tried it, it's not, and I've been trying that kind of stuff since I was a kid. It never works out well for me. So just something to keep in mind. Okay. This is the last of the schooling fish that I want to talk about. Of these, it's my favorite. Mm-hmm. We have 250 of them quarantining in the fish room right now. They are one of our most popular fish that we sell. I'm surprised by the number of people who don't know about these. Like when we take them to swaps, who walk by and are like, what is this fish? And we've had them for a long time. And here we go. Did a species profile on these two if you want to learn more about them. And that is, this is called the rummy nose rasbora. So when I did the species profile, it was rummy nose rasbora. The other name for it is the sabwa rasbora.
Or the Asian rasbora.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And this picture, I think, accurately reflects everything the male rummy nose rasbora can be. We have these in a 20 long right now. You've had them for a long time in a 20 long. Mm-hmm. We've had them in numerous tanks. This is another one. Now this is one. Unlike what I've said before, with a lot of these fish being super hardy, these fish can be expensive, and there's a reason for it. One, what you're mostly going to see in fish stores, and what we just normally do, is pretty much males, because this is a male. The females are boring. They look nothing. They have like a kind of a green sort of look to them. I think in the species profile, yes. I show some females, but the females are like a greenish kind of brown. They're not remarkable fish in any way, shape, or form. So, unfortunately, if you're somebody who wants to breed them, like for us, we just bring in the males, not because we're like, oh, we want to, not have people breed them, but because the females, if you hold up a bag and someone's like, well, okay, here's 10 in this bag or 6 in a bag, and I've got 8 females and 2 males. Okay, the 2 fish are going to look great, and then I've got 8 green fish and they're not like green kubatai. They're basically a washed out green. So you're better off if you can, and males will be really easy to identify pretty early on because they get that orange face, they get the orange to the tails, they get that blue at about a ½ inch. I mean, maybe 3/4 of an inch.
You realize that it's almost 9 o'clock and you're not done with your topic yet.
That's okay. That's okay. We're topicing.
I'm just saying because we need to answer a lot of questions.
We'll get there.
I'm just saying.
I'll go through the other ones more quickly. So this fish, it's going to be a little bit more sometimes. I can see this retail being a $10 to $15 fish. Sometimes some of the pet stores will sell them for a little bit less. But what I was going to say is, before you so rudely interrupted me, is this is one where it's hit or miss when you bring these in. Like this is one you really, really need to quarantine these guys for 4 weeks, because they're the type of fish where you bring them in and they're fine for a week, and all of a sudden you're like, what the heck's going on? Why are they getting all skinny? And you're hitting them with meds, and then they usually pull through just fine. They respond really well to meds, but this is one where I think one of the reasons why they're expensive is because importers import them, wholesalers get them, they lose a certain percentage of them, then they go to pet stores, and the pet stores lose a certain percentage of them. And they're like, well, in order to make these viable to bring them in, we're going to have to charge more for the ones that get through the process. We have pretty good luck with them, but every once in a while we get shipments that come in. It's like, oh gosh, this is not going well. So the last few have been amazing, really awesome. Okay, anything else you want to say about them? Because I know
I know, but I remember the moment that I first saw them. Do you remember where I first saw them?
We were, I believe, at a pet store in Cleveland area. Was that?
The pet store in Cleveland, outside of Cleveland. If I don't say the name like every month, I forget it.
Yeah, it's right by when we go to the OCA. Yep.
Anybody know the?
Yeah.
Does anybody know it?
So anyway, Maureen, Josh, glad you entered the freshwater side. Thank you for the super chat. Glad you've come over here and hanging out with us simple people on the freshwater side. Green neons, yeah, I think you're going to enjoy those quite a bit. All right. In the interest of time, apparently, and so that we can get to more questions, let me go a little bit faster through this last category, which I think are the centerpiece fish.
Okay.
Centerpiece fish, meaning that these are fish that are going to be, usually you keep one or a few, and they're going to be kind of your most personable fish. They're going to interact with you. All right, so I'm just going to go, no, I'm not going to go in order. I'm going to go with the most common one, and because this is the only really super common one I have in this thing, and that is the crebensis. You've had them, you've bred them.
I have. They're beautiful.
That can be a downside because breeding these fish, they make a lot of babies. They get a little bit more territorial. This is a male that you're looking at here. Females get the fins aren't quite as elongated, but they get a really purple belly, which is really pretty. They have an albino version that's really pretty. These are usually very, very inexpensive fish. They're going to max out right around maybe males 3 inches, females 2.5 or so. Usually pretty peaceful. I would keep these with all the other fish that I have on this list. That's why we can keep these together. And you can get a pair, or maybe just get a male, or maybe get multiple females, so they can sometimes be a little tough on one another. But if you want to get one or you want to get a pair, that can be pretty cool. But crebensis, very, very hardy fish. Like I said, very common. They should not be expensive. If you're getting them at a pet store, $5-6 should be a pretty reasonable amount. Do want to say thank you to Dennis for gifting 5 Prime Timers memberships. Thank you for doing that. That is a very
so
kind
nice.
thing.
Thank you.
Next one on the list is the genus is common. This species I don't think is. Ready?
I am.
What do we got? Do you know what that is? I'm going to put you on the spot.
That is a guppy.
It's not a guppy. It is not a guppy. This is a Apistogramma panduro. I picked this one in particular because of all the apistos that we keep, this tends to be the most hardy. It's the one we bring it in, again, with our harder water, with our higher pH. Keep in mind, apistos usually like water that's like neutral or even more acidic, softer water. But this one, holy cow, it does very, very well for us and everybody that we usually, when we bring them in and bring them to swaps. And I don't remember if we have them coming in this week or if I decide I was going to bring them in next time. But Apistogramma panduro, not super common. Females get like a really beautiful yellow, black stripe across the eye. Both the males and females are gorgeous in my opinion. Some apisto females are like, they're okay, but not great. These guys, and this picture does not do the males justice at all. I mean, if you go back and look at my fish room tours in it must have been 2020, 2021 when we had that 20-gallon long. These guys were insane. Get a pair, get a pair. If you don't have softer water with a lower pH, they're probably not going to breed for you, but they will be an amazing fish with great, great, great personality. And they're one of the smaller apistos too, maybe a couple inches. So they are awesome.
So for the apistos, what would you say male-female ratio in a tank?
I would just do a pair.
Just a pair.
Yeah, just in a 20-gallon, just do one pair. And I would not mix cichlids in a 20-gallon. So apistos, if you want those, pick those. If you want cribs, pick cribs. So I would not do both because you just, in a tank that size, sometimes things go wrong. So when it comes to centerpiece, I would just pick one type of centerpiece fish, Okay, next one, also a cichlid, but then I'm going to show you a couple other different ones. Want to tell people? I did that for you.
I just love them. Every time I see them, especially this one that you have, he always looks at me.
There's a half a dozen in this tank, but yeah, the one in there is super personable.
A very specific one that I wish I could steal. But because I tell him, I love you. I love you. Nanochromis.
Nanochromis transvestitis, and there's a Nanochromis splendens as well.
So beautiful.
We still have these in we're going to be bringing those to the swaps as well. Males, females look amazing. They get this red. I mean, what you're seeing there is a very accurate representation of what these fish look like. They stay small, couple inches. The males can be a little bit rough on one another. So you're working out just fine in your 22 long, because that's a 3-foot tank, working out perfectly fine in this 4-foot tank. In a 20 long, I wouldn't do more than a pair with these fish long term. They will eat snails. They will dig a little tiny bit right around structure, but they're not going to dig up your plants or anything like that. They basically would ignore all the other fish in this list that we have. Absolutely, positively a stunning fish. Now, this is another one, expensive. They were expensive for us to bring in, super hardy, but they're an expensive fish. And so I wouldn't be surprised one bit, retail $30, $40, $50 a piece. And if you wanted a pair, you could go $60, but it's worth it. They are gorgeous fish, and that not a lot of people have, right? So it's another one of those things where it's an unusual fish.
I would call them a joy.
A joy.
They are
nice.
a joy to have.
Okay, last two, and then we're going to get into your questions.
Yay!
You ready? This one is more common, but again, there's so many people who haven't kept this fish, and it surprises me every single time when we go to the swaps and people are like, what is this?
This is so exciting for me because I can't read your, like.
Okay, well, the hint is we have literally bred thousands of these fish.
Ah.
But the fry are absolutely tiny, and you have to breed these on purpose. You can't just put them in a tank and expect them to breed and have fry survive. The peacock gudgeon. And again,
so
this picture, this is it's either a juvenile male or it's a female. Males get a little, well, because the male's full grown, that's a female. Because no, I said a juvenile.
I know. I just
that's got to be a female because the males get a nuchal hump, but usually the females have a rounder belly. Both of them have insane color, small fish, 1.25 inch-ish. Males slightly longer, females slightly rounder. Now in a 20 here, I wouldn't hesitate to put. You could put 4 to 6 in a 20 gallon because they're not cichlids. The peacock gudgeon is an insanely awesome fish. I find them to be pretty hardy. If you want to breed them, though, I mean, it's something where they're cave spawners. You got to pull the eggs before they hatch, or they're going to eat all the fry. Fry are absolutely tiny. Pet stores, it's really all over the place in terms of price. I mean, you could get. There are some pet stores where you might find them for $8 to $10 a piece, which is actually a really good price. But then I see them for $25, $30, $40 a piece. So it just depends on your area. But it's an awesome fish, and I don't find them to be super aggressive. We had a 20 long, and I think I started out with 6 or 8.
Okay.
A weird thing happened where I wasn't home. Luke was down here and he said, Dad, there are tiny fish in the peacock gudgeon tank. I'm like, oh my gosh, they spawned. And in this crazy instance, they didn't eat the fry yet. I told him right away, please pull out the parents, put them in a 10 gallon, and then just leave the fry. And then the spawns are huge. I think from there we probably had like 60 or 70. And then they did it again, but this time they had like well over 100. And then they spawned in a 37. There was a couple hundred, and they just kept doing that. And then I just stopped doing it. I wish I would have kept that group. And they live a decently long time too.
Mm-hmm.
So. And
this is one of the fish that you can keep, like a single one.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you've got like a 5 gallon, that was on one of my lists.
You can keep all the other centerpiece fish as singles, Nanochromis, Crebensis, Apistos, if you really wanted to. Certainly you could do that. And this is one where you could potentially, if you had a single Nanochromis, Crebensis, or Apisto and wanted to add a pair of peacock gudgeons, I think they would mostly ignore one another.
That would be
Peacock
fun.
gudgeons have really small mouths, so not like going to eat other fish. They'd be perfectly acceptable with these other guys. Mm-hmm. Last one. This one's a little less common, but still one that we like to bring in from time to time. And the peacock gudgeons, we have them in quarantine. That's another one we'll have available in February. I had to put this one on here.
Of course.
We've got a group of them in our 50-gallon lowboy. We bring them in periodically. This is another one, exceptionally hardy fish. It's the Empire gudgeon. Males look amazing like this. Females, not quite as much. They have more brown, still really cool finnage, really cool body shape, awesome personality. But they don't get that red, they don't get that white outline to their fins. But it's a highly accurate representation of what this fish looks like. And I did a species profile. Check it out. You will see those fish. They were absolutely fired up in this tank behind us. Amazing. They get larger than the peacock gudgeons. These guys will get 3.5 inches. Right? Yeah. Females rounder. What else? What else do we want to say about them?
Other than the fact that, they actually look like that.
And
which is, you wouldn't think.
Peaceful. They get along.
Yeah.
I actually think this is one where you really do want to keep these in a group of 4 to 6 because they do spend a considerable amount of time around one another.
Yeah, and they can be shy.
Good point. They're probably the shyest of the centerpiece fish until they get used to their surroundings, and then they will be out and about. I find them really easy to feed, very, very hardy, expensive. So out of the centerpiece fish, with the exception of the Nanochromis, this is probably going to be, it might even be more expensive at times because they're not as common. And even for us, they're a little pricey to bring in. At retail, I could see them going for $25 to $40 a piece. So it's a more expensive centerpiece, but really awesome, hardy fish, very cool. That, my dear friends, is some suggestions for a 20-gallon stocking options. Again, you want to see other options of fish you can keep together, check out that video we have linked. If you want to see species profiles, check it out there. Tony B, so appreciate you being here with us. It's a prime time of the last 8 months. Which do you think is hardier, rummy nose rasbora or tetra? Rasbora, and it isn't even close, bud. Movie. Isn't even close, bud. Do you know?
It sounds familiar, but
Let's see if anybody gets it. No, it is. It's the rummy nose rasbora, because once they are established, they're awesome. And if they're making it through pet stores, if you're looking at a pet store and they're looking pretty good, they're not skinny or anything, they're going to be awesome. I have nightmare stories about rummy nose tetras. I mean, the rate at which they can contract the disease and then expire is mind-blowing. It is absolutely mind-blowing how fast those fish can be like, I'm looking okay. There's a spot. Oh my gosh, they're covered in salt and now they're gone. Mrs. Nesbitt, Breakfast Club.
That's
very
right.
true.
Very nice.
Yep.
But some
Vito,
other
good guess. Fast Times, it's not a bad guess. Nicholas, that's
and
not
Home
a bad
Alone.
guess.
Yeah,
Yep.
I could totally see that.
Yep. So, yeah. Very cool. I'm just thinking in my head, I could probably do a whole bunch of Breakfast Club quotes, but we need to answer some questions. So if you got questions, I'm sorry it took so long to get to your questions tonight, but if you got them, we'll answer them. And here we go. Tim, bam, question. I'm planning on a school of white cloud mountain minnows. That's a good one for a 20-gallon tube, by the way. And especially if you get the golds or the long fins, or even the standards are really pretty. And a school of pygmy cories in my 20 long. I love that. Thoughts? There's something you don't like about the pygmy cory? I love the pygmy cory. It's a small little cory fish, a lot of open water, loves to perch itself on rocks and wood.
Yes, little rock perchers.
That is a great combo. I could eat in a 20 long. I could see a dozen of each.
Yeah.
And you still have space. And
You'd have space. What would you put in the middle? Because the white clouds will kind of stay towards the top.
No, they're still middle. They're middle top to me. I would be happy with them. I think what would be missing here is maybe like a couple honey grammies or something like that, right? Not sparkling. Sparkling too much like the pygmy cory, but a couple honey grammies just to kind of get that roaming sort of thing you got going on.
Get some roaming.
Yeah. I saw a very cool...
Whip says, that's the second time in a week I was stumped by a Breakfast Club quote. I guess somebody needs to rewatch it.
Yep. So fish and football. Yeah, rasboras are way more chill and easygoing than most tetras. That is, especially in this case, the rummy nose rasbora is a very relaxing fish, very methodical. And oh, by the way, the rummy nose rasbora that we were talking about earlier, this guy here, what's nice about them is they are very inquisitive fish. Like you will see them picking at stuff, like picking at not eating plants, but just kind of picking at surfaces, looking around and just exploring. Where the rummy nose tetra is more like a typical tetra, where it's just kind of going to swim around, school back and forth. Rummy nose tetras get bigger. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big rummy nose tetras, I've seen them about 2 inches. So rummy nose rasbora stays smaller. So if I had a choice between the two, for me, it's the rummy nose rasbora because I just like the personalities a lot.
Faye the Faye wants to know, do green neons prefer long or tall tanks? Long. Generally, there aren't a whole lot of, although when you say tall tank, I immediately remember our column tank.
Yeah, the 15-gallon column.
A lot of fish don't really,
but even if we're talking
optimal,
standard 20 versus 20 long, I would, if I had a choice between a standard 20 and 20 long, I would pick the 20 long every single time, unless I'm a beginner and I'm just trying to get into the hobby cheaply, and I can get a 20-gallon standard kit, or I just don't have the 30 inches of length, but to fit like in a space. But I would definitely prefer for the fish a 20 long.
Yeah, more horizontal.
Yeah. But there are fish that do well in tall tanks, like discus, angelfish, severums will sometimes look nice in a tall tank. Tim, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Picked up 5 zebra loaches and look amazing. Love zebra loaches. Is it best to feed at night when the thieves won't steal their food? Also, my 80-gallon lowboy is done. Oh, that's so cool. That's right. 80-gallon lowboy is done. Looks amazing. That would be an awesome tank. Zebra loaches are not shy fish. Once they get used to their surroundings, I have not found it necessary with loaches to have to feed them at night. Every loach I've ever had, I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions, even my coolies at this point are coming out and being like, all right, we're hungry. But the zebra loaches in general will, once they learn where's the food and when it's time to eat and start recognizing you as the food person, they will be quite active around feeding time. And the big clown mulches we have back there. I bet you can't see it because the 50-gallon lowboy is in the way. But right in this lower corner here, it's getting really close for their time to eat. And sometimes in the live stream, I'll see them in the back. Usually around 9:15, 9:20, you'll see some very, very, very large clown loaches. Well, I mean, not very, very large, but 8 inches or so, tall bodied, come out and be like, okay, man, it's time to eat. So lot of fun. Loaches are generally, I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry about it. They will come out eventually if they're not already.
Fish and football. What a great name, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Fish and Football says, my scissor tail rasboras are amazing.
Yeah.
I love scissor tails, and I've wanted to get them. How long?
It's
How
been a while,
long have
and
I
I
said?
keep saying, all right, so you can feel free if you find them at a pet store or something like that. If you want to pick up a half a dozen, then you can go ahead. We'll find a quarantine area. I'm not going to bring in the hundreds I need to, but feel free to.
Who had them last time? Zuxai had them.
Okay.
I don't know if they still do, but guess who's going there tomorrow?
Yeah. Lady,
I totally should.
thank you so much for the super chat. That's a great question. How are the whiptails? So the L11As that we talked about earlier at Eating Algae. By the way, thank you for doing what y'all do. No, thank you for being here. We wouldn't want to do this without you all being here. So that's a great question. I have found them to be decent. Are they as good as a bristlenose? I don't know. Because again, so much of our fish going to eat algae off your glass depends on how much. It's a delicate balance. You have to make sure they're getting enough food so that they, like our bristlenose, our plecos, they all do eat, right? When we put in sinking pellets, they do eat. But I also make sure that they are not getting so much food where they're like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and wait for food all the time. Usually there's enough food competition in the tank where they're getting food, but they're still taking care of the algae. So they were in a standard 20 gallon, and they were the only algae type eating fish, and we never had algae issues in that tank. And usually when I bring them in, which like I said, we've got them in quarantine, the algae, if there's any already on the glass, it's usually gone. So, but I don't think they are just completely going to go crazy with the algae, but they will take care of some for you. Tank Girl, I love this question. Would 20 long be okay for Maltese? Yeah, we didn't really get into the species-specific tanks, but 20 longs are perfectly acceptable for the shell dwellers, all shell dwellers, Maltese, Similis, Brevis, Signatus, even the Calypterus, which is a larger, the males are quite large, that would be acceptable. Gold ocellatus. The only thing is with like gold ocellatus and the Signatus, some of the more aggressive ones, you might have a little bit of an issue with the fry survival, and you might want to put more rock work in there just to break up the line of sight. But yeah, absolutely, Maltese are. We've had rock dwellers like the Julidochromis ornatus, Transcriptus, Dickfeldi, Reagani in 20 longs, just as a breeding group. That worked out just fine as well. So if you looked at our species profile on the ornatus, Julidochromis ornatus, that was a 20 long, and we bred them in that tank for a long. We had them in that tank for a long time, and we bred them in there for a decent amount of time.
Peter Parker says, my wife and I are planning on keeping a group of pea puffies.
Oh, cool.
In a 20 long, she saw those fish at the fish store and fell in love instantly, as we all have.
Yeah, we just had a group of 100 or so in quarantine.
Imagine?
Now we're almost out of them, but yeah, they're great. Yes, I know. I will not.
It's the finger. It's like.
Sometimes I get stuff in, and I'll put it on the website, and then it's gone.
It's gone.
And she's like, "You didn't save me any fish," and those
are the
types of disagreements we have in this household. It's usually, did you seriously just use my piece of driftwood? Or I had those plants for a project, and now they're in my tank. Or I come down and be like, where are my crypts? And she thinks I don't notice these things, but I will notice when she pulls some crypts out of one of these. I notice these things. I don't always say something, but every once in a while, I'm like, that was rude.
All I had to do a couple times is wait until all the lights go out, come down with my phone flashlight, and literally steal them.
See, I'm gonna start I'm gonna put a camera down.
Although, just so you know, FYI, I'm not gonna touch them because I wouldn't touch your gallery tanks.
Yeah, the gallery tanks don't. But I know that these things get.
No, I know, but you got crypts growing in the front. That looks sloppy.
I know. I'm gonna take care of that.
I could take some of those crypts off your hands. Is what I'm saying.
You see how this is working? I will be the decider.
I'd help you out. That's all I'm saying.
Because I might take those crypts because the barb tank over here is a little. Some of the Anubias is just. It's not meeting my needs.
No.
So I'm going to have to put some more crypts in there because they're my favorite anyway. All right, hold on. Where was it?
Do it.
Matthew, great question. So basically the difference between a 20 long and a 29 gallon is the height. That is the only difference. And it's actually convenient because that means you can use the same lids, same lights, same fish tank stand if you're using a fish tank stand. Yeah, the 20 long is just a shorter 29. I love the 20 long in terms of its dimensions. It's really easy to work with and work on. It's not so tall. Lighting is great for a planted tank. The only downside is it is a shorter tank, and so some of your taller plants might look a little cramped in there, and you don't want to keep tall-bodied fish in there because it's a shorter tank. But love the 20 long.
Cryptic wants to know any thoughts on dojo loaches.
I have not kept dojo loaches in a very long time, so I'm probably not the greatest person in the world to critique the dojo. Somebody here, if you're a dojo loach expert, tell us all about it.
Tell the class. Share.
Oh, great question, Sleeper. Newbie question. Well, I'm glad you're here because this is a good place for you. Why are some fish identified with letters and numbers? Those are fish that have not been formally named, and so usually they will get these designations. That happens a lot with plecos. It happens a lot with corridors. And so these are typically fish that they have not been assigned a full genus and species. And so they have this letter and numbering system. And then once they have been formally described, and so scientists do this, not fish keepers or just, hobby nerds like us, but scientists will formally, what they call, describe the species. And once they do that and they publish their work and it's accepted, then they can define a particular or assign a particular genus and species, and then that letter system will often go away. But in the hobby, once you get to know, oh, here's an L11A whiptail or here's an L155 pleco, it's very common for those names to stick around, even when there's reclassifications of fish that have a genus and a species, like where they actually have a name. A lot of times it takes years and years and years for people in the hobby to accept that new name because you've got all this information stuck to the old name. So I find myself still doing that with using some of the old designations, even though it's just what I'm used to. And the common names, good luck, because for instance, let me go back here. What we called the rummy nose rasbora, I like that name.
Yeah.
But I would say if you were to talk to people about this fish, most people would call it the Sabo rasbora because of Sabo resplendens. So most people call it the Sabo rasbora. I call it the rummy nose rasbora. But then that's why the common names aren't always the best names to use, because you want the scientific name, because then there's no confusion. Each living thing has a genus and a species, and it's unique to that living thing. Where with the common names, it does get really confusing because fish can have multiple common names, and if you don't know all the common names, that's why sometimes people ask me questions here. They'll use a common name and like, hold on a second, I got to look that up because I think I know what this fish is, but if it goes by 5 common names all over the world, that can be a little confusing. You'll see me a lot, especially with cichlids. I will use species names like with the shell dwellers, Neolamprologus multifasciatus and Neolamprologus similis, just because the common names for those aren't nearly as common and they get confused. Carlos says, Carlos, do I sell fish? Do we sell fish? Yes, but we don't sell fish online. We don't ship fish. We only sell fish at swaps in the Chicagoland area. And we've got a couple coming up. And so we have our website, primetimeaquatics.com. We update that. And people pre-order fish because the fish usually sell out pretty fast that we have for the tables. Very fast. So it's always easier just to pre-order, and then they come and pick them up at the swap. And that's how we roll. But we don't ship. I always recommend you want people who ship fish. That's why we have a partnership with Flip Aquatics, because that's what they do. And they quarantine their fish, and so I feel really comfortable that people are going to get healthy fish.
Kat says, I need to outsource making a decision on stocking for a 15-gallon.
Okay.
Currently thinking wild type bettas, small live bears, or a pair of something like a pistos or Nanacara anamla.
All great choices. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the 15, I'm assuming your 15-gallon It's usually the same length.
Width and length.
It's getting late here, everybody. And remember,
Wow.
I've been in my in-service. I've actually had to work full days lately. The same. So the 15 gallon is the same length and width as a 20. It's just a little shorter. Everything that you've picked is a very appropriate fish. We did a fish tour of Jeff Michael's fish room years ago, and he loved the 15 gallon for all the fish that you basically talked about. So our options were, once again, Apistos. Can you tell me? Do you still have that question? Because
I'm trying
Wow.
to find it. Okay, here we go.
okay.
The wild type bettas, smaller live bearers, or a pair of something like a Pistos or Nanacara Namla.
Oh, okay. So all of them are good. You had, what was the betta that you had, the wild pair, that actually you can just keep them as a pair and you don't have to worry about them fighting?
That would be my choice from your selections.
What
I
was
think
that? It
everybody
started-
should keep wild type bettas
No,
at least once.
What was the species?
I don't remember.
We had two of them. They were
Yeah, I know.
longer. I want to say it started with an M.
I didn't put it in like permanent storage. brain.
Maculatus? Was it maculatus? Does that make sense? I don't remember anymore. It's been so long. But they were really pretty. The males had a really, really pretty blue, and you could keep them multiples in a tank. You could keep a pair. They would breed there, so that would be a good option.
Oh, so pretty.
Pistogramma, if I was
Makes me
doing
want
that,
them now too.
I would do the Panduro. I do think that they are they're all easy to breed if you got the water. Cockatoides, there's so many options. Live bearers, yeah, you could do that. But I do like the idea of the wild bettas or the Apistos. Was there another option there? I thought there was. Nanacara, Namala. That's a cool one. The only issue with breeding those is if you're gonna want to move them and like sell them to a pet store. We have them in our fish room right now. We have them available for swaps. I found a lot of people don't appreciate what they really are. Like the Nanacara Anamla, for those of you who don't know what they are, because most don't, imagine an electric blue Acara, only small.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nanacara Anamla are like a pistogramma size, so a couple inches, 2.5 inches, males, females a little smaller. Males have a very beautiful blue color with some yellow undertones. Females not as colorful. They tend to have more of a yellow color, like a dark black stripe. We have a group of them in this 75 gallon right over here by Joanna's head with our barbs. There's half a dozen in there, and they are beautiful, beautiful finish. But the thing is, it's like when we bring them to swaps, people who know what they are like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen these in a while, and they buy them right away. But I might go wild bettas or Apistos, especially the Panduro. Nicholas, thank you so much for the super chat. See the cute sunfish video from Japan this week? I did not see that video,
Aw.
but I bet it is
Are
cool.
they little? That's another fish. Oh, I gotta talk to
What, the pygmy sunfish?
Ryan. Remember, I was gonna get pygmy sunfish.
Yeah.
I want those too.
Pygmy sunfish are cool.
It's
They
the
are.
night for me wanting a lot of fish.
Apparently, you've got some issues.
I got some issues. Oh, Evan, speaking of issues, Evan Keller says, I got 12 clown killies a week ago. I
Nice.
think I remember when you were announcing that you were getting them, you were really excited
Yeah.
about them, or if you just got them or something, and have lost half of them in quarantine.
That, unfortunately, is why we don't bring them in anymore, because I've tried numerous times. And it's one of those fish where it's probably nothing that you did. So I say
Okay,
that.
but he says specifically what happened. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
You want the info?
Sure.
Okay. Their tails clamp up and they
Yes.
then they
Yes,
have
yes,
trouble
yes.
staying upright.
Yep.
Any idea
Yep.
what it could be? Like, what do you think?
I have not been able to cure that, and I've tried, and I found them to be extremely sensitive to medications. Let me explain to you the nightmare that is known as the clown killifish for us. They ship in massive quantities, and I've tried this 3 times now. First time I got 500. You want to know how many survived out of that 500? Same issues. Actually, different issues each time. I think there were 6 that survived. Next time I get them, I'm going to try it again. I love the clown killies. They're gorgeous fish. I got 400. Did better that time. That time I actually had fish that made it through quarantine. I think we were able to actually bring 30 or 40 that were very healthy, very vibrant. We brought them to the swaps. The last time, I think what you're describing, I hit them with, they didn't have ick, so I hit them with antibiotics. I did the Maricin 1 and 2 combo. And once I started adding the meds, it was like, phew, they just fell off a cliff. But I believe I got another 40 or 50 to survive. through the 4-week quarantine, look happy, healthy, eating, nice and full, no clamp fins, but I'm done. I will never bring those fish in again because I'm having the same issues that you're having.
Yeah.
And then I the more people I talk to, it's the same thing. So part of it could be, hey, we're not liking your pH. They're not liking my water hardness, but I'm smart enough to know if that's the case and they're not adapting well. Some of you probably have had a very different experience, and it's probably because your water parameters are maybe better suited for them. But I'm sorry that happened. And the nice thing is, if those other 6 survive through that quarantine period, they're usually pretty hardy, but just getting them to adapt, way too many issues, unfortunately. Mahachai, thank you, Fishcapades.
Oh,
the Mahachai. I knew it started with an M. I so appreciate that. Would have driven me crazy all night. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Betta Mahachai.
Oh,
yeah.
You would love them.
Thank you for that, because I would not have gotten that. Shirley, thank you so much for the jumping little guy around the whole thing. That's what I call him, the jumping little guy around the whole thing. Thank you for that. Okay, what else we got here? We got time for a couple more. Man, this night went by fast because I think I talked way too much. Sorry about that.
Dory says, how big do the scissortail rasboras get? I just Googled and it said 4.5 inches. I didn't think they got that big.
Yeah, there are some rasboras that get bigger. I haven't brought them in.
I didn't think the scissortails.
I haven't really looked closely at them. But there are some rasboras that get pretty sizable.
Yeah.
Ken, thank you for being here. Newbie, love the little icon there, the Harley motorcycle thing. I want a live plant tank. I have bought 8 plants. All have died within 2 weeks. I thought live plants would be easy to grow. They can be. It depends on the plants. It depends on your lighting and your water parameters. If you've got really off the charts hard water with a crazy high pH, maybe sometimes Anubias, maybe Crips will sometimes do okay. If you've got like no water hardness at all, that can also be a problem because your plants could be missing minerals. If you've got things like Crips, they will melt and then come back sometimes.
Correct. So you may have had, possibly depending on the type of plant, you may have had plants that melt, and that's normal because a lot of the plants that you get they're basically immersed. So they grow them immersed out of the water, and then when you put them in your tank, they shock, and then they have to convert themselves to underwater plants. So there's a kind of a changeover period.
And even with things like Anubias, you'll have that rhizome. It's that green kind of horizontal thing where the roots grow out and the leaves grow up. As long as that rhizome is intact and it hasn't like rotted or gotten all fungusy, the leaves sometimes will fall off. I've had that happen. We've had that happen a number of times with Anubias, and then all of a sudden you'll start to see little leaves pop up again. Mm-hmm. So if you've had that problem, I always recommend, there are some plants that are pretty easy. I find the Crips, you plant those, put root tabs in. They are usually pretty easy. Anubias, because it's low light, tend to be pretty straightforward. Those are, I think, for me, the safest of the plants. Tony B, thank you so much for the You Are Amazing jumping around guy. I like seeing those jumping around guys. Those are fun. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Glad you're here. Okay, what do we got going on here?
Oh, Cousin Phillips asked, any tips on the best sponge filter for 10-gallon with 1 betta? Yeah,
so I did that video, my favorites, the sponge filters that we've been using for well over a decade, and we've used hundreds of them. I love the Hydro. So Hydro is the brand, Hydro ATI, and they have different sizes. So the Hydros go from 0 to 5 in a 10-gallon. A Hydro 1 or 2 should work just fine. So, and especially if it's just a betta, Hydro 1 or a Hydro 2, they're going to be great. So keepfishkeeping.com they might be out. I don't know if they're still sold out, but they sold out of them really fast. But great sponge filter. Kat, thank you so much for the super chat. Beheta machahensis is the species I was particularly eyeing, so I think, yeah, that's awesome. That would definitely be a really, really good one. And I think, so again, if you're looking to breed and then actually move them along, I think you could move those, especially at pet stores, because they're not super common, and I think there will be people out there who appreciate the fact, like, oh, I can actually keep more than one of these in a tank, and it's not going to be like the typical betta that's going to beat the ever-loving snot out of one another. So it's a good choice if you want to breed some bettas and do something a little different.
You know, Zenny brings up a really good point.
What's that?
Don't give up on any plant unless you're whip.
Wow, those
shirt.
are Those are words right there. But
That's
I
a
think you're
shirt
right.
that I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donald says, "Oh boy, it looks like orange laser Corys are about to spawn." That's very cool.
Lucky.
Yep. And those would be, if you could spawn those, you could probably you'll get your money back for sure with that one. All right, what do you think? I think it's about time to go night-night. I'm pretty much gonna fall asleep, and I will be asleep probably in 15 minutes because this getting up early and having to use my brain all day long,
Oh, you
I'm
poor
not used to
guy.
that. I'm hurting. I'm not kidding. So thank you. Thank you to all of our moderators for being here, hanging out with us. Thank you all of
thanks.
you, your questions, for hanging out with us the last hour and a half. We, as always, we're going to be back same time, same place next Thursday. We'll have another fun subject for you, and we will absolutely positively have a giveaway because I
Ooh.
got down here really late. I thought we were going to do it tonight, and we didn't get to do it. So next week, I got to make up for that. I got to make up for my slackery.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
You
I was
do.
a definite slacker. So thank you to all the new prime timers and all that kind of stuff. We will be back, and we hope to see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time after the KG Tropicals live stream. Have a great week, everybody.
Night.
Bye-bye.